and welcome back to Old School. Today we're going to be in Acuity 101 and talking about the mental quadrant. Um, a lot of my life, the abuse I walked through, some of the trauma I walked through, I tried to reconcile with what I thought was being logical. Um, in the end and in retrospect, not much of it was logical, but it was something my little brain used to protect myself. Ever since I was little, I tried to logic and reason things, and in some cases it was very protective and helpful, in other cases not so much. I do know that mentally there are so many things that can get in there and muck up the works. We truly, in order to move forward, in order to heal, in order to receive just a mental clarity and have critical thinking skills and discernment, we do need to detox. And that's not just physical, although that is important, like um, whether it be too much caffeine, alcohol, too many drugs, and I don't mean drugs, although drugs too, but like prescription drugs, just so many things that are a toxin. They're literally a toxin. Whether they're good for us or not is another can of worms. If your doctor's prescribed something, I'm not recommending that you go off of something without talking to your doctors and things like that. All I'm saying is that our detox organs have to contend with the things that we put in our body that are toxins. And some of them, not necessarily all of them, but some of them impact our brain. They impact our ability to think clearly, to be in a brain fog, and maybe not directly, maybe not just by the drug that they are, or the toxin that they are, but by creating a brain fog, by creating an environment where they impair us. And everybody likes to go straight to like drugs like marijuana or cocaine or things like that, or straight to alcohol. And while those things do have an impact on our mental acuity, there are other things, too much caffeine and adrenal exhaustion, just other things, oxidative stress that like just causes a breathing disconnect for us, and that is just going to impact how our brain functions as well. So all of these things need to be addressed before we can like move forward in some form of healing. And those are just the physical components for us mentally. Then we have to deal with the things that we hear and see that are traumatizing, that really affect how we think about things, whether we put a skew or a bias on things, whether something that has so traumatized us when we were young makes us look at human beings and assess them differently. So all of those things have to be detoxed and walked through in order to move forward in a healthy manner. And there are lies that can get wallpapered in our brain. The enemy seeks to kill, steal, and destroy our future and who we are and who God wants us to be. And so we have to let go of all of those things and detox those things. And recently I've been walked through some detoxing, and what was fascinating is the first couple of things that the Lord detoxed, and he knew I wasn't strong enough to detox them on my own, so he did it, were a couple of humans in my life. And one of them was removed probably altogether, and one hopefully not so much, but just their initial presence, because we were unhealthy and hard on one another. And so we'll walk that process and hopefully circle around to a healthy relationship together. I'm grateful that because I wasn't strong enough, that he took care of it. Because until I did that, I'm not going to walk forward in healthy relationships. So having him make that choice, having him produce that outcome in a combination of ways. Some of it was some things I did, but most of it was on the other people. And basically the Lord moving the chess pieces on the board. One thing I've always hated is personality tests or these character tests, these things when you go into a job or what have you that want to like pigeonhole you, put you in a box, that you're this type of person. I feel like if somebody's smart enough as they go in and they know that they're applying for a job in a specific area, that then they answer the questions in a way that helps them get the job. And I'm not saying that people are lying or that I was lying. I'm just saying if you're smart and you want to get the job, you're going to do what you have to do. You're going to answer what you have to answer. So I've never been a big fan because I thought people could manipulate those situations. And so recently I've had a lot of people comment on Enneagram. And I was like, nah, I don't want to do another personality test. I don't like them. I think they're, flawed. And people over and over commented on it. And then our church had one of the gentlemen who's written a lot about it, written several books about it, interpreting the Enneagram. It's 9 different personality styles. And he had a discount for church members if they wanted to go on and try it. And just the way he was describing it, it wasn't pigeonholing people based on a personality. It was talking about the basis from which we operate. And I thought, okay, that's fascinating. Let me see. But I can't say that in the back of my mind I wasn't thinking, I'll see how I'm supposed to answer these questions. That's terrible. And that isn't how I should have went into it. But here's what's interesting is I went to the page, and there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can do a very cursory, high-flying version, or you can do one where you get a 24-page interpretation. And so I went onto the page and I started it, and I was like very fascinated because within the first few questions you realize you cannot interpret or like determine. Plus I didn't even know what the 9, types were. So I didn't know how to like manipulate it even to get to a type I wanted, number 1. And number 2, the way the questions were asked was so fascinating. It wasn't discernible, So to go in and go through the whole process and then get the interpretation back was really enlightening. It really, truly did come from a basis of how we operate and how we respond to stuff. And it could not have been more frightening and eye-opening for me. The worst parts of it are absolutely true, and I didn't want to talk about it. Sitting in a room by myself, I had to acknowledge that they were, and it's not all horrible, but I'm just saying the basis from which I was operating, because of the level of trauma and abuse I have gone through, unrelenting from the time I was born through my divorce, was, I believe, dealt with, but still mechanisms were in place to help me function. I'm going to describe, I'm a 7, which is called an enthusiastic visionary. Sounds pretty cool, right? How bad is that? That doesn't sound bad. And here's the description of enthusiastic visionary. 7 seek variety, stimulation, and fun, tackling challenges with optimism and engaging with life in a future-oriented way. Still good. As team members, they bring creativity, energy, and optimism. They may seem distracted. Okay, now we're heading out of there. Hedonistic. Oh my. Insensitive or irresponsible to others. 7s are often unhappy but deny this. Escaping into hyperactivity and impulsive pleasure seeking. At higher integration, they are present, finding joy within. Okay. You know, who, like the term hedonistic or insensitive, nobody wants to hear that stuff. But if we don't stop and take a look at how we're truly coming across, then how can we ever become better people, better versions of ourselves? One of the foundations that it talks about that I operate from, and it could not be more accurate, is that my motivational need is to experience life fully while avoiding pain. Well, I was beaten as a child by my father. I was molested as a 5-year-old by a 23-year-old brother of my stepfather. I have had every significant male from then till now lie to me, cheat on me, and abuse me physically, sexually, or emotionally. That is a pain I don't want to go over. It all happened during a time in the world when you weren't allowed to talk about it. So nobody got punished. We weren't allowed to talk about it, and nor was I given any kind of healing. There was no conversation. I just had to grow up and figure it out. I don't recall ever thinking, why didn't God stop this or blame God? I remember thinking clearly that these men were evil of themselves, and it was their choices that did this to me. So that part seemed logical to me. I then decided to make choices to not allow them to be in my world very long. If somebody got to a place where they were going to love me, the people who were supposed to love me before had rejected me, abused me, and treated me poorly, so I wasn't going to allow this. So I thought I was being logical when I was stopping anybody after the point where they decided they wanted to tell me they love me. The funny part is now I love deeply and hard, and I don't want to be the one who stops loving and rejects someone. So I will be loyal and love till the day I die. So that is the disconnect. That is where I had to detox in my mind what I thought was being logical, to embrace what was real. But we have to think about what is true, what is real, what is trustworthy. And I was hiding so that I could choose joy and choose happiness, which wasn't fake. I was making that choice, and I believe those are a choice. But I had to stop logicking away how I love people and how I let them love me. So mentally, in order for me to move forward and heal in that quadrant, and I will go over some of the things that the Lord has walked me through and that I've walked through in order to heal there, including how the Enneagram works and getting you links for that. That was a very eye-opening process for me, because my whole life I've allowed logic to dictate or what I thought was logical. So I really believe that we have to detox from all these things that we have in our brain, the lies that are wallpapered in there, the social media fake realities, the fact that we look at other people who are complete strangers for validation and instead of looking to those that are truly love us in our inner circle. That's not logic, and that's not a good quality. High value individuals who are going to be truthful with us, the things that are real and true and trustworthy. Those are the things we need to have good mental strength and good mental health. We were not created to be timid and have fear, but to have a sound mind. And so that is capable. And the sad part is that we as humans are lucky if we use a couple percentage points of our brain that we've been given. And the Lord is just sitting there waiting for us to utilize the knowledge and the wisdom He's given us so that He can give us more. If we're faithful with a little, He'll give us more. We can be faithful. He can consider us faithful with much. So we have to detox both the actual toxins, drugs, alcohol, over caffeine, sugar, over sugar, so many actual nutrients or toxins that we take in that gum up our gut biome, our bacteria levels, our detox organs like our liver and our gallbladder. And we have to really address those, and then address the things that we've allowed to circle around in our brain to be beliefs, to be logic, to be reality when they're not. And we clear those out, and then we can take a look at our reality and how we can make adjustments to our critical thinking, to our discernment, to the truth, and move forward. So that's the mental quadrant for me, and that is where I'm at, and those are the steps I started taking. So on the next class, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Enneagram, because it's so amazing in regard to a much wider spectrum even of how we can mentally hang on to what's real and truly have a hold of a foundation in a motivational arena for joy and happiness and reality in a non-toxic environment. So thank you for coming to class, and if you like what's happening here, if you can click on the subscribe, the like, if you want to click the bell for notifications. If you don't, I understand, and I would appreciate it all. I'm actually releasing this week my website, Dreamweaver Creations. It's my small business consulting firm, but it is also where my book launch will come from. So if you have an opportunity to go take a look at that, I will have that link in the comments as well. So any kind of feedback, any kind of interaction, love all of that, and I'd be happy to reach back out to you and get you a link for the Enneagram. There's a couple of companion books he has that are just so awesome in helping explain and understand the foundational and motivational places we come from. And all of it helps with the detox and the healing. And man, how it helps with the sleep, how it helps with relationships, how it helps with just being able to be at peace with yourself and be genuine with yourself. So thank you for coming to class, and class dismissed.